playing with confidence. Surges it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals either side of quarter time.
They have done it, the Bulldogs!
I'd find somebody for you. There ain't no wall I will run through. In your corner when I'm ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd find somebody for you.
Yes, hello WAFL fans. Welcome one and all to another big edition of Around the WAFL. When I say big, I don't mean that loosely. It's a monstrous show coming your way today. It is Coaches Night on Around the WAFL. Of course, we're going to be speaking with two of the key coaches in this weekend's WAFL action. We'll talk to them in just a little bit. Also, we'll have a full preview of the weekend's action, and On Location is back once again. Thanks for joining us on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel in amalgamation with Front Row Screens and Associates, collaboration with the WA Sporting Hub, and on your podcast service. Paul Bersick with you, and alongside my main right-hand man, Ethan Roth. You're pumped up for a big weekend of footy?
Yeah, pumped is an understatement, Paul. Great to be back, and yeah, looking forward to Coaches Night as well.
It certainly is. It's not just Coaches Night, but of course we're going on location to the Perth Football Club and talking about some of their key interstate recruits, Rothy, that have really shined on the opening weekend just gone.
Yeah, there was a fair few of them. So yeah, they're doing well internally. They're doing well in terms of players they're developing and also bringing in. It's exciting for their footy club.
And of course, your Colts report is back. Super Round this weekend with the 3 games in Joondalup on Sunday.
Yeah, it's been a marquee event on the Colts calendar, Super Round, where all the recruiters come over and at the one venue being HIF Health Insurance Oval.
Yes, how fitting too, just quietly being a Joondalup resident. Fantastic stuff. Yes, you can check us out on our Facebook and Instagram pages, as well as the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and your podcast service. We've got Adam Reid and Jack Schwarze chatting to us on the show today, ahead of their respective clashes. Of course, Peel playing Claremont in the WAFL competition on Saturday, and then Jack Schwarze, reigning WAFLW Premiership coach, aiming, of course, for that three-peat. Of course, he'll be jumping on later on in the show. But let's get to some news, Rothy, before we chat to Adam Reid of the Peel Thunder Football Club in just a few moments. Speaking of the Thunder, they've got a bit of a blow to deal with because Corey Tregenza was reported during that game against East Fremantle, and he's going to be missing just the one game, we were told via WA Football media release. And speaking with Adam Reid just a little earlier, he'll only miss the game against Claremont.
Yeah, good news that it's only just the 1 week. Obviously, they would love him out there this week, but yeah, they'll just have to accept the 1 week that he's been given and move forward.
Of course, he was reported for engaging in rough conduct during the second quarter of that win against East Fremantle. Without the plea, if they had accepted the 2 matches in hindsight, which they haven't, but if they did, he would have missed both the Claremont and Perth clashes in the next 2 weeks. WA State 16 girls obviously have been in action as well. Rothy just fell short of South Australia despite a gallant comeback in the second half.
Yeah, it's exciting time for them coming up against a South Australia team which have some good stock. So yeah, they did concede 3 of the 4 first goals, which I guess anytime that happens, you're gonna be back on the back foot. But yeah, they did come to 15 points within South Australia, so a good effort to move past that, and yeah, I'm sure they'll look forward to the next game.
And they certainly will. South Fremantle, of course, this weekend, their first home game, and it's always a great tradition to see the team unfurl the flag at their first home game, and the Bulldogs fans are going to be turning out in full force on Saturday.
Yeah, particularly against a team like Perth. I mean, they're probably the 2 favourites at an early stage for the flag, and you know, along with a couple others close by. So I think for them to unfurl the flag in front of their home supporters and get up for a big game against Perth, it's going to be, watch this space.
And finally, news coming through during the week. Sad for East Fremantle, Jack Avery, a former Perth player, did his ankle in the first round and won't play again this year.
Yeah, unfortunate. We touched on it earlier in the week, and it's a bit of blow for him. I know he was obviously setting himself for a big year, so thoughts go out to him and East Fremantle. They've done it tough in terms of unavailability through recruits, AFL recruits, and now injuries. So another challenge for them to replace a quality player.
Absolutely. And speaking of quality, Peel Thunder, they've got it in spades, and they showed it in that second half against East Fremantle, and we won't keep him waiting any longer. The coach of the Peel Thunder Football Club, the Premiership coach from 2024, Adam Reid, is going to join us as part of Coaches Night to kick off tonight's broadcast of Around the WAFL. Adam, hello, mate. How are you?
G'day, lads. I'm going well. How are you?
Going well. Great to have you on the show for the first time in 2026. Let's go back to that game on Good Friday. It was a great win over East Fremantle. You held your own in that second half. Your stars came out to play, and there was a lot of grit in that side. I remember we spoke in the pre-season about the sharper and tougher side that you've got, the mental edge that your side has got, and it really showed in that second half.
Yeah, look, I thought East Freo threw everything at us. We were lucky we hit the scoreboard in the third quarter and they were a little bit inaccurate, which gave us a bit of a leg rope in the last. And I thought they were terrific with their pressure and territory game in the last quarter. And fortunately for us, we were able to find some time and space late to hit Charlie Nichols for a set shot and Tobin Murray for a nice goal out the back. But, yeah, I think it speaks volumes of the group being able to work their way through that kind of pressure against a good side in round one.
And there's been a lot made of Mason Cox and his performance best on ground, you could argue, on the weekend. Where do you sort of sit? Does he need more time with you guys, which I'm sure you wouldn't be complaining about, or can you see him breaking into Fremantle's team? And just on that, what's been the messaging around his game and what he needs to continue to do?
Oh, look, I think we all know what Mason's capable of. He's had a 10-year plus AFL career, over 100-game player that's played in big games. And, yeah, he was very good for us on the weekend, but he's been good for us over the course of the pre-season during our practice games as well. So for him, it's just staying ready in reality. Fremantle obviously playing well. The two bigs are playing well there. So he's like any other player that comes from Fremantle and plays for Peel on the weekend. They've just got to stay ready and take their opportunity when it comes.
Now, we highlighted this at the beginning of the show as part of our news segment here on Around the Waffle. Of course, Corey Tregenza out for one game, and it's not really much of a concern, isn't it? Because you've got a lot of depth in that forward line, plenty of tall forwards fired in that win over East Fremantle, and while it's disappointing that Tregenza won't play in this game, you've still got a lot of depth up forward to look at.
Yeah, obviously disappointing for Corey. Just a bit of an accident, split-second decision. It wasn't intentional. It was just unlucky, and so he'll miss. And yeah, you're right. We spoke, Paul, in the pre-season about one of our aims this year was to improve our depth, and we feel like we've done that. GM of Footy, Sam Skinner's done a great job of recruiting a few guys, but we also feel like a lot of our younger crew, have got some games in the reserves under their belt and have matured well, and we're confident our depth is better this year. So when we have these situations where someone like Corey, who's a bona fide WAFL League player, will miss, someone can step in and fill the role.
Absolutely. And Claremont were as dominant as any team in round one. What do you make of them leading into this week?
Yeah, look, perennial contenders. They're a great club, Claremont. Consistently successful in all three men's grades over the last as long as I can remember. And yeah, they were exceptional on the weekend. They jumped West Perth from the beginning, and they're a good side. They've got quality over all lines, so we're going to have to be at our best this weekend. We're aware of that. We played them a couple of weeks ago in the pre-season. They got over the top of us, so we're hoping we've learnt our lessons from there and we can go toe-to-toe with them again.
Adam Reid, we really appreciate your time here on the Round of the Waffle. All the best for that big game against Claremont at Revo Fitness Stadium. You've played some close ones against the Tigers in recent years. Let's hope it's another belter. Go well, mate.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me.
That was Adam Reid, the coach of the Peel Thunder Football Club, joining us here on Around the Waffle. And depth is obviously going to be a key thing for Peel Thunder to work out. Obviously, they had a good win over East Fremantle. Obviously, they're going to be one key forward short, but they've got plenty of weapons in their reserves that they can look at to take that spot for at least that game.
They do, and I guess maybe last year would have been a bit more of a concern that Tregenza gone out, as he sort of did, and they struggled. But I think, they've got some depth, the likes of Charlie Nichols coming through, developing, kicking through on the weekend. He's a young Fremantle forward, so I think the reserves had a really good win as well over East Fremantle by 69 points. So there's going to be plenty of players putting their hand up.
Yeah, there certainly is. We'll look at that game in a little bit more detail after the break here on Around the Waffle. It's also thanks to Grant's Car Stereo, Sullivan Logistics, as well as Front Row Screen Sport and District Promotions. Thanks, guys, for showing your support to Around the Waffle in season 2026. Stay where you are. We'll be back with more Waffle action after this.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the WAFL. Great to have your company. Our Thursday preview show looking ahead to round 2 of the WAFL competition, and later on round 3 of the WAFLW, where we're going to be joined by Jack Schwarze, the reigning Premiership coach at the Claremont Football Club. He's gunning for a 3-peat, and they're 1-1. We'll talk about that later. Let's get down to round 2 of the WAFL Rothy, and it starts with the reigning premiers unfurling the flag at Fremantle Oval against Perth, 140 live on 7+. This is a game, I know it's only round 2, but you can look at this as an 8-point game, Rothy, with both sides not really at full strength yet, but they've still got great depth all around the ground. And it's going to be a real test for the Demons, so too for the Bulldogs against a really strong Perth side.
Yeah, really strong Perth side after what they did on the weekend, albeit to the West Coast Eagles. But I think this is arguably game of the round in early stage. 2 premiership contenders. And Perth last year, they struggled to take it up to South Fremantle, getting within 22 points in their last meeting around 12. But new season, I think unveiling the premiership flag will give a bit of extra fuel for those who weren't out there, but also those who were to try and go back to back and start with a home win and the second win on the trot in season 2026.
Same can be said with Perth as well. Blake Schlensog's not expected to be back this week, but if he is, that's going to be a massive bonus. Same case for Lockie Payton, another one of the key forwards for the Demons. But as we saw against the West Coast Eagles on Good Friday, their forward line is so versatile and so mobile, and same with South Fremantle, who obviously had that unlikely goal kicking hero in Jordan Bollineau, who kicked 5. It's going to be a battle to see which of those forward lines are going to be more effective. Yeah,
it will be, especially those small forwards as well, and also the midfield battle. We can't look past it, likes of Constable and Parfitt. Riley Wills running through there for South Fremantle with the familiar names of Parker and company. So it's going to be the midfield battle who they've battled a couple of times now, so they'll be no stranger to each other. But that's going to be ultimately where it's won and lost.
The rucks is going to also be interesting as well. Hamish Free over 40 hitouts in that win over Swan Districts. That battle could be one that goes in his favour, because obviously Perth have got 2 very good ruckmen, but obviously they're still without Blake Schlensog, who is also primed to be a good ruckman forward. He can play forward, he can play ruck as well, but obviously you're going to have to rely on Josh Edwards. Having said that, Zach Harding put in a sizable showing against South Fremantle on Good Friday, against the Eagles rather, on Good Friday. So Perth aren't without their ruck weapons.
Yeah, and Blake Schlensog is a guy you mentioned who can dribble, but Hamish Free's also added that to his game as well recent times off the back of a Simpson medal in that grand final. So they're going to look to expose each other the other way. I look forward to that matchup.
You'd feel it's an 8-point game, wouldn't you? Based on not only the venue but the form of the 2 sides in their last 5 meetings. The Bulldogs have won their last 5. Perth took it up to them in round 1 under lights at Mineral Resources Park, but the Bulldogs showed their class in the end. You would say it's very even on paper with the size that they've got, even if they're not at full strength.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of these players would, on the fringe, would be sort of in the top tier of players at other WAFL clubs, which says enough in itself.
With that in mind, it's a tough one to pick, but who does get the points?
Yeah, the temptation definitely is there to go with Perth, but I'm just going to back South Fremantle at home. I think that factor of the crowd getting out in force, I think South Fremantle will be too hard to beat in the end, but I think it could be the closest match we've seen between these 2 sides in quite some time. That's saying something, considering it was a 13-point game in in round 1 of last year and a 22-point game in round 12.
Could be the possibility. Conditions are going to be perfect, 29 degrees and sunny all throughout the afternoon, and both sides thrive in those dry conditions. When it's nice and warm, the players are putting in the effort and putting their bodies on the line in the contest. Contested ball will also be another important thing for both teams. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs only because it's a venue game. If it was at Mineral Resources Park, I'd throw in that temptation to say Perth, but it's going to be a great game, make no mistake about that. Live on 7plus at 1:40pm. And now you're heading off to Sullivan Logistics Stadium, Rothy, your first league game of the season. East Perth and Swan Districts at 2:10 live on 7plus. Both sides coming off losses in the opening round. East Perth by 7 points to Subiaco, Swan Districts by 45 to South Fremantle. Who's going to rebound the more effective?
Yeah, looking forward to being back on the airwaves of 7plus on Saturday with Jordan McArdle. And yeah, both teams will be disappointed. More so probably East Perth, considering they were favourites against Subiaco. And Swan Districts will be coming with confidence. You know, they took it up with South Fremantle best part of 3 quarters. So, yeah, fascinating battle. And I think a couple of games on the trot at Southern Logistics Stadium for East Perth they can get used to in the season. So I think, yeah, again, they'll go in as favourites. And, yeah, they'll be tough to beat. And I think they're going to come out firing because they probably left their run a bit too late against Subiaco, even though Subiaco, you know, held on and pushed ahead late.
Well, Swan Districts came out fighting against South Fremantle. I reckon they can do so against East Perth because obviously they've got some players coming back from injury and they look quite good for 3 quarters. But the aim is against these teams like East Perth and South Fremantle is to play 4 quarters of football. They've got to go beyond their best on Saturday at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, especially that midfield. You know, still a young unit. Jess Turner, obviously, the more experienced out of those midfielders, had 38 disposals, but he really has to have a lot of support from the young faces there.
Clint Hinchliffe as well, having 22 disposals on league debut. He looked seamless with his. Well, it's not a return, it was a debut last week, but I guess coming up the ranks. So, for mine, East Perth probably just bat a bit deeper in the midfield. So I think that's probably where they can look to expose Swan Districts.
And they can up forward as well. Even without Tom Medhat, if he does play, then that's going to boost their forward line even further. And of course, they're still without Hamish Brayshaw, who can serve as that anchor in midfield. Down the back line, I reckon they've got the Swans forward line covered because without the likes of Lee Coleman kicking those goals, and, you know, he's been up and down in form in the last couple of years, that's going to leave the Swans forward line exposed. Having said that, they did have some weapons up forward in that loss to South Fremantle.
They did. And I think at the other end, again, I think with the like of Darcy Craven, Tom Graham, Sebert Queck, they probably batted a bit deeper. But, Swan Districts will fancy themselves, I think. And, we've spoken a lot about if they can get a full team together, which they've got the best part of now. So I think it's time for them to see what they can do. And, there's probably no tougher task than facing the 2 grand finals of last year back-to-back weeks. They've got that. And if they can play near what they did against South Fremantle, they'll give themselves a chance against the Royals.
Yeah, I will say so, but East Perth, they just bat deeper, as you said. I will agree with you on that. They do bat deeper in midfield and up forward as well. Graham, 5 goals last week. He's looking to kick a big bag as well. Amaduri can shift up the ground. He can become that good goal-kicking mid as well. Scotty Jones in the ruck. That battle, I reckon he could have well covered against the Swans' opposing ruck. So I reckon he, with the muscle that he's got and the height advantage he has, it's going to be very darn tough for Swan Districts to try and get the ball out of the middle around his presence.
Yeah, it will be. And the whole midfield battle is something I'm looking forward to. So hopefully there's a big crowd there at our Southern Logistics Stadium. 2 proud traditional teams, so bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. They had a few good crowds in the last few meetings, especially that second semi-final 2 years ago. Who wins?
East Perth for mine at home. I think they'll get on the board one to start their winning ways.
Yeah, I'll say East Perth as well by about 3 goals. I'd love to see some good fight shown by Swan Districts on Saturday down at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. All the best with the call too in your first appearance for the year. Now we go to Goodgrocer Park. The fence is going to be in place first of all, and East Fremantle and Subiaco are set to do battle. Obviously, East Fremantle losing Jack Avery for the season with an ankle injury. That's never a good thing this early in the season. Of course, they'll be primed to bounce back after a loss to Peel Thunder, but Subiaco, they made a big statement last week. Can they keep it going?
Yeah, well, you'd have to think so, judging by the way they played against East Perth. All respect to East Fremantle, but you'd think East Perth are a better team than them. I think obviously the loss of Jack Avery is going to hinder East Fremantle's defence, you'd have to say, but they made up for it after that game on Good Friday. But yeah, Subiaco, who would have thought would be speaking about them this highly? And you cast your mind back to round 12 of last year where they did beat East Fremantle by 1 point at Southern Logistics Stadium. Different venue, of course, for this one, but they'll fancy themselves, Subiaco.
Yeah, and so will East Fremantle after the grit they they showed against Peel Thunder to come back from 4 goals down. Okay, they lost by 13 points. And without Jack Avery, they still got some very good talent, especially in that midfield. And up forward too, we saw Oscar Smart debut magnificently with 4 goals. Liam Robinson, the former South Australian, with a couple. So those are the forwards that are going to be the prime focus for their forward setup. Same with Subiaco in the case of Ben Sokol, who's led the charge with a couple of goals, and Stefan Gyro, who got our top gun votes in the Player of the Year with 3 goals last week. So, put them in that forward 50. They complement each other so well.
Yeah, Ryan Borchett, another name as well. And yeah, a lot of players. Was really impressed by Fraser Rickson as well in the ruck against a tough opponent like Scott Jones. So he'll face another tough opponent on the weekend. And I think East Fremantle, that you mentioned, Oscar Smart, he did really well in his first game. So I think going back to the defence, like East Fremantle bat really, above their average in terms of the likes of Lennon Marlin, who plays above his height. Probably a good matchup for Sokol size-wise, you'd have to say. Sokol looked to play as deep as possible, but there's a matchups plenty.
What about Jonathan Marsh? Who do you think he'll match up on as far as his experiment down the back line is concerned? I reckon you'd want to put him with Gyro, but if Rickson goes to that forward line, I reckon you'd put him on him. Yeah,
Gyro's obviously going to play different aspects of the game. So it depends where Johnny Marsh goes. I mean, straight away, probably if Johnny Marsh does play forward, Jacob Blight would be the main matchup. But then if he plays back, it could be a Ryan Borchett or someone like that.
Who does win with all this in mind? It's another 8-point game. I know it's early in the season, but you sort of feel that after Subiaco's rejuvenation of form. East Fremantle, they got right into it against Peel Thunder, although they didn't get the points on that occasion. Tough game to pick.
Yeah, Subiaco for mine. I think, if they can get some confidence on the board with an away win, that'll do themselves, really, really good, hold them in good stead down the track. So, I think Subiaco might just pick too good for East Fremantle.
I'm going to go the Lions as well, but not with much confidence. Who knows? East Fremantle could bounce back and maybe get that first win at home for the year and set them up for an early run, but I've got a good feeling about Subiaco because the way they took it on to East Perth last Friday was a really good sign with Jared Schofield at the helm. So I reckon Scoey will go 2 from 2 with his batch of Lions. Now, the final game of Saturday. This is a beauty. Claremont and Peel Thunder. 2:30, Rebo Fitness Stadium. Can't wait to get there on the call for 7+. They are no stranger to close games in recent years, aren't they? Of course, round 9 of 24, the semi-final that same year. And then, of course, last year we had the draw. They don't want to play one-sided games, don't they?
Yeah, modern rivalry in that game last year in the really tough conditions when Nat Fife played and got a Sandover vote as well. So, they've come up against each other. And, I guess the ledger's been relatively even. This is a mouth-watering matchup. Straight away, my initial matchup goes to Oliver Eastland and Mason Cox in the ruck. I think it's going to be fascinating.
And I think we can make that official because Cox didn't board the plane to South Australia for Fremantle's Friday game against Collingwood, so it looks as though he will be in the ruck for Peel Thunder on Saturday, and of course we'll have that confirmed when the teams are announced later on in the week. But gee, that matchup could be the decisive one. Eastland and Cox do a lot around the ball. Their follow-up work we rate very highly, and it's going to be about who gets the better of them. It's purely a one-on-one that could win it.
Yeah, and Mason Cox will drift forward. I think this is an opportunity at an early point for Ollie Eastland to say, hang on, Mason, like you're not just going to go straight to the next level and beat your opponents like you did against East Fremantle. I think potentially it's an opportunity for Eastland, as he's done to many opponents, to really put him back in his place here and say, like, I'm just as good as you, if not better.
Well, Mason Cox could say the same thing to Oliver Eastland. You say, okay, we've got a new guard here in the ruck. I'm going to beat you this time. So it could be a matchup that sort of determines the guard as far as the premier ruckman of the WAFL is concerned.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously Mason has bigger ideas in mind, but I think putting another good showing will do his chances no harm. I think Claremont deserve to go in heavy favourites, and I think I'd be surprised if they lost this one, if I'm being honest.
It's going to be tight odds because the way Peel got it done against East Fremantle, up against the way Claremont got it done. Okay, they were up against the West Perth side that is still, going through a rough patch, but the way Claremont put the foot into top gear and didn't get out of it was just terrific. All-out attacking football. They had plenty of forward options. Gowdy, DeLacy amongst the goals, so too Bailey Rogers, who drifted from midfield, and the back line led by Pearce, Mountford and Hardesty were just brilliant, shutting down any opportunities from the West Perth forward line. With Tregenza out of that side through to suspension, that does leave only a minor hole in Peel's forward line, but the Claremont back line will want to go in for the kill and expose it.
Yeah, likes of Davis and Hardesty back there. And I think it was not only how Claremont won, it was the way they won against West Perth. It was just ruthless, and it was just from start start to finish. That's what gives me confidence in this one against the Thunder.
Especially with the key being getting the ball out of the middle and into attack. Who's going to have more numbers around that contested ball and who's going to be more effective in getting the ball into that forward 50? And both sides, they look very strong in midfield. You talk about Callan England, the co-Sandover medalist from a couple of years ago. Scotty Tuia, who looked sharp in that win over East Fremantle. And so the way they use the ball in their forward 50 is going to be one stickling point in this game.
Yeah, and Ash Prescott was caught watching the East Fremantle Peel game on TV.
Homework,
so he's done his homework. He knows he's been well researched, and he knows the likes of Cox, but a lot of their other players, both AFL aligned and non-AFL aligned, will be crucial to this one.
That week of homework could pay off for Prescott. With that in mind, who wins?
Claremont for mine, I think pretty comfortably. I'm happy to say.
I'll say Claremont as well, but I reckon it'll be tight as well. Just like that recent run of close games, it should be a cracker to complete the Saturday action on 7+. And then Sunday, a lone game on Sunday. It's down at Mineral Resources Park, the Eagles' second time that they have played on their quote-unquote home ground, Mineral Resources Park. This time they take on West Perth, also on the rebound. This is going to be a game that could determine, I know it's round 2, but it could determine where the side's going to be at in 2026.
Yeah, a bit of a danger game potentially for West Perth because the Eagles have been known to sort of cause upsets in the WAFL competition, both against high teams and low teams as well.
West Perth being one of them.
Yes, and you cast your mind back, they've been South Fremantle, they've been East Fremantle in the past as well. Especially at Mineral Resources Park. So, yeah, got to watch out if you're West Perth, but I think they'll be eager to bounce back. There'd be no team more eager for the weekend, and they're going to have to wait an extra day than the rest of the teams, than the Mighty Falcons.
That'll certainly give them a bit of a freshen up, obviously, with the Eagles. Having said that, they played on the Friday, so the Eagles have that little extra day to prepare, so even that might place them at a bit of an advantage.
It could, yeah, and I suppose team change-wise as well, interesting to see if they make any change. I know Stan and Page kicked 4 goals in the reserves for West Perth, so maybe he's putting his hand up for senior selection against the Eagles.
Or maybe if you have a few more running plays in that side, because West Perth, they lacked a lot of that. They had no run out of the midfield, beside Connor West and Joseph Hinder, but Hinder didn't have a lot of the football. West had plenty of it, but he didn't have anybody going with him. So they need their midfield to go with the likes of West and Black and company to try and really put the foot down against the Eagles.
Yeah, Connor West obviously know the Eagles really well as well,
That's right.
playing with them. So a bit of insight potentially there. West Perth, obviously experienced across the board, youth coming through. So, this one could be closer than people realise.
Yeah, it could go either way. The Eagles, of course, they've got Dewar there, who played one of his best games in Eagles colours. Bailey Williams, the laid in. I reckon he's going to be up there for potential AFL selection in a week or two ahead if he has another good ruck hit out against the likes of Riley Sprigg from West Perth. Clay Hall from midfield was terrific. They just need a few more weapons up forward beside the likes of Kernet and Lucas, and they need somebody going with them.
Yeah, they don't have Colin Livingston, who's on the other side of the ledger as well, so that's
Against
maybe
his
where
old
they can take advantage of that.
It's going to be an interesting game. Who's going to be on the rebound and get that first win of the season?
For mine, it's West Perth, but I'm not saying confidently as much as I've said with some of my other tips.
I'm a little bit more confident in this one. West Perth have to win. They're going to have to rebound because their performance on Good Friday was ordinary, and they need to show that they can be fair income in the Sanzoni era, and they need to be with a big win. So it's going to be an interesting game on Sunday over there at Lathlane. Huge weekend of WAFL football, and you can check out all the action live on 7+. Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we do come back, Ethan's back with his Colts report, and Jack Schwarze, the Claremont WAFLW coach, is going to join us as they look ahead to their Sunday game against Peel Thunder out at Revo Fitness Stadium. Of course, Around the WAFL is all thanks to Sullivan Logistics, proud supporters of WAFL in 2026, Front Row Screens, District Promotions, and Grant's Car Stereo Morley. You're watching on Around the WAFL's YouTube channel and listening on your respected podcast service. Back after this.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Stereo Morley. Proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years. Selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems. Stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley. Or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle. Great to have your company on the Around the Waffle YouTube channel as well as your respected podcast service. Of course, second part of Coach's Night, not too far away. Jack Schwarze, the reigning WAFLW Premiership coach at Claremont, is going to join us very shortly. But first of all, Rothy, Colts report time. And it's Super Round this weekend. All the AFL recruiters are going to have their eyes on some of the best young talent here in West Australia with 3 games taking place in Joondalup.
Yeah, 3 of those games HIF Health Insurance. So, starting on the Saturday, though, Claremont and Peel Thunder. Was pretty impressed by Peel's outing against East Fremantle, although it blew out late. But Claremont, they beat West Perth by 7 points. Expect them to go into this one warm favourites. East Perth and Swans. East Perth coming off that Good Friday win against Subiaco. Swan Districts took it up to South Fremantle, so they'll take some confidence out of that. I'd say Swans will go in as favourites there, so I'm tipping them. East Fremantle and Subiaco. East Fremantle look to be, a class above in season 2026. Subiaco battled hard, but I think, East Fremantle just got a few more weapons, particularly, their state 18s players still in and around the mark. And then finishing off on Sunday, I'm on the call for this one, South Fremantle and Perth. Perth coming off the bye, a bit of an unknown in this year, maybe not the most hype Colts team, and South Fremantle showing that why they made a grand final last year. So I'll say South Fremantle for mine.
Great job as always, mate. All the best for the South Fremantle Perth call. That was Rothy's Colts report here on Around the Waffle. Yes, okay, from Colts to the WAFLW. And reigning premiers Claremont, of course, started out in contrasting form in the first 2 weeks. A loss to Swan Districts in the grand final rematch, but bouncing back well against West Perth on the Good Friday. They take on Peel Thunder in a vital clash against the Thunder side that is young but hungry. And so are the Tigers to make it 2-1 after 3 games. Joining us now as part of Coach's Night is Jack Schwarze, the reigning premiership coach at Claremont. G'day, Jack.
G'day, gents. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you on the show. Well, we'll go back just quickly to the Good Friday game against West Perth. Having a look at that game, you led by 20 points at halftime. Did you feel, a gut feeling despite winning the game that you should have put the Falcons away?
Yeah, we probably should have. But at the same time, I think it was just it was one of those games that was incredibly efficiency with inside 50s and turning them into scores from both teams. So as soon as they got a look, West Perth, they looked very dangerous every time they went in. So it would have been nice to have put them away and not let them get back as close as they did. But I don't think we necessarily didn't capitalise on anything. It was just the fact they did when they got their opportunities, and it was a very high-scoring game.
What was the messaging after the round 1 loss? Obviously, round 1, so wouldn't have imagined it would be panic stations too much. But what was the messaging to sort of, keep you cool leading into the second game, which you ended up coming away with?
Yeah, it was panic stations. We ripped into each other and we said, "This is it. We're done. We're over. It's all done and dusted." Round 1. We sort of laughed at a few things, and but at the same time took a lot out of it. I think it's one of those games that was probably really, really important for us, because we've had some times in the past where we haven't played great footy ourselves. But the standard of the opposition over the last few years, there's been opportunities for us to get away with that a little bit and sort of work our way back into a game if we didn't start well, or if we're off the pace a little bit, and not punished and eventually find ourselves and get ourselves together. Whereas that game against Swan Districts, they did not give us an opportunity to get back into the game and find our feet. They really did punish us. So it was really, really good. As much as it was a bit of a tough one to cop. As soon as I woke up on Sunday and sort of thought about it, I'm like, that's really good for us, because there's some areas that were highlighted that probably otherwise we've gotten away with in the past. So yeah, it was actually really good, and we sort of looked at it that way very much, and the whole group was very quick to be resilient and hunger to get back on the winners list the next week.
One player I wanted to ask about new jumper number this year, new role it seems, and just calling both the games this year just seems like a new player, with all due respect to what she was still contributing last year. Jess Freem just looks like a new player. Talk to us about the license she's been given to run and take the game on.
Oh, she's been all. She put in so much work in the off season. She came down and she wanted to just do extra skills and extra running and extra kicking and sort of game work. And she just really put in a lot of hard yards and she was nailing her pre-season and has taken that to another level now with games. Ultimately, yeah, she does. She's got a little bit of a license, and we're still throwing around a little bit, testing her in the mid and off half back, because it grows her timing. The way that she can time her run off half back is different to the way that she does it as an inside mid. So she's still got a lot of little bits of craft to learn. But it's seriously exciting. To be honest, when I see all the little nuances that we can fix and what she can do better, that's the most exciting part, is how good she still can be and what level she can get to. But, gee, she's exciting to watch when she breaks lines and just barrels forward.
And on that same level of excitement that a player brings into the team, Rachel Ortler, what a response she had after being held to just that one goal in round one. She came back firing with 4 goals against West Perth, and that 4-goal haul really got her confidence back after the performance in round one. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's just another notch on Rachel's belt as a captain, as a leader of the club. Her ability to, when the moment calls for it, step up and whether it was in a game moment or whether it's a following week after a disappointing performance by the whole team, her ability to lead from the front and step up and show that, hey, we can put that one behind us, and that doesn't define us as a whole group, and it doesn't define our program. It's a once off, and let's get back on with it. And she's another one that is still continuing to find ways to contribute, despite being one of the older girls in the squad. There's no slowing down. She'll keep competing and finding ways to come back and add things to this team.
Experience does count for everything in this WAFLW competition. She was terrific on that Good Friday. Jack, thanks so much for your time. We wish you all the very best for the big one against Peel Thunder on Sunday as you look for 2 wins on the trot.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks for having us, gents.
That was Jack Schwarze, the reigning Premiership coach at the Claremont Football Club, joining us here on Around the Waffle. Big game that is for Claremont against the young Peel Thunder side that are hungry and firing and ready to go to get their first win of the season. Okay, let's look at the WAFLW action, Rothy. Round 3, and this begins on Friday night. And you'll have a bit of Friday night WAFLW footy, don't you, Rothy? Good Grocer Park is where we're going to start. All WAFLW games live on the WAFL YouTube channel. East Fremantle and Swan Districts. Now, can the Sharks stop the ruthless Swans?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm on the call for this one for WAFLW game of the round, and they've had a good ride, obviously coming up in that elimination final last year and the last round of the season leading up to that as well, which fair bit of change either side. So, Swan Districts is hard to fault their form so far this year, and even East Fremantle off the back of a goalless game in round 1 did really impressive against Peel Thunder last week. So both teams coming into this with confidence, even if they're in different ways.
Oh, well, East Fremantle I don't think should be taken lightly by Swan Districts with the way they responded. Okay, it's a young side, but a lot of 20, 21-year-olds. But what they do have is extra miles when you're looking at it. The younger players got a little bit more miles in the legs. They can run all day. Swan Districts, of course, they've got some experience, but they have it on a consistent basis. Jamie Henry, 38 disposals, back-to-back top gun. She's been in rocketing form, but they've also got great depth as well up forward. Edwards, Maguire and company. Down back, Bella Edgley, who's a very accomplished defender at Swan Districts, and I reckon they could give East Fremantle a real tough task.
Yeah, they could. And East Fremantle, I think Wilson Sieber's been a big inclusion of the last week for them. So
and Zoe Keeley as well.
Yeah, she's probably their one wood up forward, whereas Swan Districts, even the likes of Ash Sharp, who's kicked 3 goals on 2 occasions. They're going to be tough to stop. I think both these teams like to run and carry, and that's been implemented from the coaches, Dave Eames and Jason Burns. So some run and carry, but on the other side of that, look for the other team when they're not having the ball to try and expose their opponent. So could be a high-scoring game, potentially, with that in mind, but it's going to be about the defence as much as the offensive as well.
And the night conditions are going to throw a great leveler, isn't it? Because nighttime football at the Good Gross Park is a bit of a rarity in WAFLW and WAFL for that matter as well. So it's going to be a new frontier that both sides will have to conquer.
Particularly for Swans, I think. East Fremantle been looking forward to this for a while and have trained it a little bit more maybe. So, I think East Fremantle, maybe that'll fall into their favour.
Well, who does win with that in mind?
Swan Districts are mine. I'd be surprised if they didn't come away with this one. But hopefully for East Fremantle, they can match it with them for as long as possible.
Yeah, I'll say Swan Districts as well, maybe by about 2 goals. I'd love to see East Fremantle get a bit close. They've got a very good young side with a lot of run and carry, but I reckon the Swans rather, with a little bit more effectiveness around the football, especially through Jamie Henry and Ash Sharp, they'll get the chocolates in this one. Now, the Saturday action on the WAFL YouTube channel, 4:25, Fremantle Oval. South Fremantle taking on Perth. Now, this is also a bit of an unknown game when you're looking at the form of the two sides. Of course, Perth, they were able to challenge Subiaco, but couldn't get the result on the scoreboard. And South Fremantle, of course, coming off that loss to Swan Districts on the Good Friday. It's going to be interesting to see how both sides shape up for this one.
Yeah, it will be. And cast your mind back last year, Perth winning their first ever game over South Fremantle back in around 11. So there's one for the memories. And the challenge will be, can they do that for back-to-back wins against the Bulldogs in a row? South Fremantle, bit of a reality check potentially after that loss last week, coming off the win in round 1. But I think this could be close. And I think both teams will back themselves in to go into this one and have a real crack.
Do you think South Fremantle would want to make it a high-scoring game because their performance in round 1 was great? Okay, round 2 wasn't so much. They didn't have a lot of weapons up that forward line, but do you think they want to make it a high-scoring game as much as so Perth want to make it a slow, contested grind? Because they made it that way in the first half against the Lions.
They did, but again, the avenues to goal is going to be interesting, which is a challenge for both these teams, you could say. Potentially goal kicking mids is where it's going to be one loss if the forwards can't fire. So, looking forward to seeing who comes away with the chocolates.
And also, I think putting the microscope on the back lines as well, because I think South Fremantle's back line has a lot more versatility than Perth's at the moment, because when the ball has gone down there a lot as far as Perth is concerned, they just haven't been able to find an answer more often than not against the likes of Subiaco, Claremont, and to an extent South Fremantle in their first clash last year. But they would have learned a lot from their first win against South to know how to play this South Fremantle side on their own turf.
Yeah, it's a good call. Like Hunter Cronin's down there, obviously. They've just brought in Matty Evans. There's a number of other key defenders and also those running defenders as well. They're probably bolstered a bit more in terms of their key stocks, but hopefully for Perth's sake, that's where they can expose them at ground level.
This could be a tough game. Perth 0-1, South Fremantle 1-1, still early, but Perth looking to build on their successful first season. South Fremantle, still a few question marks on them. Who wins?
South Fremantle for mine. I think the gap between the best and worst is not as much as it is for a young Perth team.
Just for something different, I'm going to go the Demons. I got a feeling they're going to repeat that first win of last year and beat the Doggies again, but it should be a cracking game on Saturday down at Fremantle Oval in just about perfect conditions. Now we go to Leederville for the second and final match of the Saturday at 4:50 on the WAFL YouTube channel. Subiaco and East Perth, co-tenants battling it out. Now Subiaco, they've often kicked the sweep against East Perth, but the Royals, they're fresh off the bye. They had a win against Peel Thunder, so they'll be going in high on confidence. So will Subiaco after getting off the mark in season 2026 against Perth, and they've got some fire in the belly to repeat that dose that they had back in round 17 of last year when Subiaco kicked 2 goals and held East Perth the one behind.
Yeah, with all due respect to East Perth, I think this is an opportunity for Subiaco to make a statement. I think we're going to find a lot out about Subiaco. If they're going to be as good as they were last year and trying to get better, they need to win comprehensively against East Perth here. I know East Perth, had a good showing in round 1, and they're building, but I think Subiaco, needs to win by at least 4 or 5 goals to give me any confidence that they're to be taken seriously in 2026.
I'd up in that margin, say 6 or 7, because Subiaco, their forward line's still not the same without Olivia Wolmerans. They don't have that suitable backup for Layla Quinn-Schofield anywhere in that forward line. They've often relied on Layla Quinn-Schofield in the first couple of games to get their goals, and she has not been able to play that role well. So who's going to drift up forward and be even that goal-kicking mid to provide that backup? So that's my only concern for Subiaco. If they can't kick a big score and win by, let's say, 6 or 7 goals, then there's still going to be more questions than answers. And even if they somehow lose to East Perth, who are a young side, but they're renewed on confidence after the win against Peel, there's going to be a lot more questions. So they need to answer those questions emphatically.
That's why I said, I think, 4 or 5 goals, because I'm just not super confident that they can score more than that, in all honesty, at the moment. But hopefully for their sake they can prove me wrong.
Krista Petrevski, I reckon she's going to again be that hard lady to try and knock off the pedestal, so to speak. And why I say that, because she always gets those 30 possessions, and she's going to be hard to chase down because of her pace and her agility from midfield. And East Perth, they've got to find someone who's good enough to try and contain her influence, or maybe even put in a 2-on-1 contest against her.
The only thing is, there's a couple of other players that can step up.
That is true. That is true.
Shepherd, who had over 30 disposals in the last outing. So, yeah, no problem with them getting the footy Subiaco, and I think that's obviously an area that East Perth want to shut down. It's just what they do with the footy, or how they can restrict Subiaco when they do get it, and their backs might be under fire a little bit, but let's see how they hold up.
Who wins?
Subiaco for mine.
Yeah, I'll say.
I think for their sake it has to be convincingly. Obviously, they'll just want to win regardless. Anytime 4 points is 4 points. But, not as much as this matchup would have been in past times, particularly last year.
Yeah, I'll say Subiaco as well, and they need to win big. Now we go over to the Sunday match. That is at 12:10 live on the WAFL YouTube channel. To conclude the weekend, it is, of course, Claremont, the reigning premiers, against Peel Thunder. Now, of course, Claremont, they've had a good streak of big wins over the Thunder, who, of course, still without Chloe Wrigley, still serving her 3-game suspension. But regardless of that, at least you'd want to see Peel put in a good effort. I thought Peel were a bit nowhere in their last match, and they're going to have to find some sort of belief within themselves to try and knock off this Claremont side, which is often hard to do at Revo Fitness Stadium. Claremont, apart from that round 1 loss to Swans, they are hard to beat at home.
Yeah, and they'll look to get some confidence back at home after that loss to Swan Districts at that venue, and I think it's going to be, somewhat of a challenge for Jack Schwarze's team to try and put that past them. But again, Peel Thunder, with all due respect, not at the calibre that Swan Districts are. And for Jack Schwarze's team, I think he's going to be really big on what he was saying to us, not just limping over the line and really just being ruthless as if every quarter really matters.
You would say that, they want to try and do what Subiaco are looking to try and do against East Perth and make a statement, say, we are the best sides in the competition and we're going to reinforce that. And I reckon more so against the reigning premiers Claremont, because no one expected them to be beaten that badly in round 1, and they should have put West Perth away. I'll still maintain that, and Jack Schwarze even agreed when we spoke with him that they should have put the Falcons away in round 2. So they've got to play high-octane, aggressive, disciplined football for 4 quarters, not just 2.
Yeah, and don't underestimate what Peel can do. I think the competition's getting more even, and as much as Claremont have been dominant, it is a reflection of other teams improving. So that's good for the competition, but Claremont will not want to take their eye off the prize.
Ebony Dowson, I reckon, is going to be one that will be relied upon to get a lot of that football in the absence of Chloe Wrigley, but she's got a lot of opponents to contend with because Claremont have got such great depth in midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. One of them, Juliet Kelly, had 36 disposals, 10 tackles on the weekend, and just with an AFLW pre-season draft looming, putting her name up, and I think that's one thing I would have loved to ask Jack Schwarze about if we had more time, is he fearful of losing her? But, I mean, that can only be a good thing for Claremont, showing that she's putting performances on the board. So, few players to watch this space in that sense if they can continue to put their hands up with an AFL pre-season draft around the corner.
Who does win on Sunday?
Yeah, Claremont for mine, I think. Pretty confident to say. But, stranger things have happened, and wishing Peel all the best with it.
Yeah, it should be an interesting game, that one, but Claremont for me as well, quite comfortably in the end. They've just got too much class in midfield, defence and forward, all around the ground. They're the reigning back-to-back premiers for a reason, and, if they want to reinforce the status quo, that we're the number 1 side in the competition, we can do it to anybody, they've got to beat Peel by a big margin on Sunday. We'll take one final break here on Around the WAFL for today's show. When we do come back, we're hitting the road once again. This time, we're going over to Laflane to chat with a couple of new interstate recruits that really blossomed in round 1 against the West Coast Eagles and how they're taking to the environment over there at Laflane. It's all thanks to Sullivan Logistics, District Promotions, Front Row Screens and Grant's Car Stereo. This is Around the WAFL on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and your podcast service. Back with more shortly.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate.
On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle. Great to have your company. Paul Persick and Ethan Roth with you, looking ahead to a huge weekend of waffle football. Now, on the road, the first 2 weeks, Rothy, it's been rather successful around the Waffle on location. Some great numbers on the socials and on our YouTube channel as well. We decided let's take it to Lathlane this week. And, of course, you'd agree that Perth, they recruited plenty on the interstate players and it paid an immediate dividend in round 1.
They did, and not only that, they've kept their internal players and their young developing players coming through. So those two are really coming together and blending as well as they could be at an early stage.
Those two we're referring to is Charlie Dean, the former Collingwood player, and Indy Kirk, the son of Brett Kirk, the 2005 Sydney Swans Premiership player. We spoke with them as we went on location this week to Lathlane. Success for the Perth Demons has been hard to come by since their last grand final appearance in 1978, but the outlook is more positive than ever before. Building on their first finals win since 1997, the Demons have recruited heavily, bargained for interstate players, and round 1 brought immediate dividends.
Parfitt, what can he do? Ran into trouble, got the effective hand pass away in the end. Just putting the car into reverse. There was Johnson. He was almost running the other way, did the U-turn, bangs it home.
Among the interstate brigade, there are 2 that stand out amongst the pack, Charlie Dean and Indy Kirk. Both are taken to the waffle like ducks to water.
Yeah, I've loved it. It's so great to be able to learn the culture and the history of the footy club, the success through the 70s, and they've had a lot of past players come through the doors in the past couple of weeks through some functions, and it's been really good to entrench ourselves into the story of the footy club.
Charlie Dean played 12 games with Collingwood over 4 years but was curtailed by foot injuries, while Indy Kirk played 43 games for the Sydney Swans VFL side and was their best and fairest last year. Indy also has a chip on his shoulder, as he is the son of 2005 Premiership star Brett Kirk. But carving his own path in football is a challenge Indy thrives on.
I guess you can't let that stuff put too much weight on your shoulders, so I'm kind of trying to pay my own path, as you said. Just kind of do my own thing. Dad's always there for advice and he's pretty good at giving advice, but he's also the first person to hide in the dark corner and just watch the game from afar. So yeah, there's not too much weight on my shoulders, and the Perth Footy Club's been super welcoming and loving every minute.
Round 1 saw Charlie Dean play a great role holding down the back line, amassing 14 touches and 9 marks. Kirk, meanwhile, had 22 touches and had a moment every footy star dreams of.
Out to Kirk for his first goal in Demons colours. He's done it! Indy Kirk with his first goal in the red and black.
No, it's pretty special. I guess this club has such a rich history, so no, it was unreal. I remember walking off after the siren and they call it the pig pen over there at the bar and everyone's just jumping over the railings, rubbing your head, and it's just, yeah, it warms your heart and it's just a special place to be.
With expectations high on Perth this season, both Charlie and Indy know there is plenty of eyeballs on them to make it a year of success.
Look, there's no doubt there's some decent talent on our list, but we're well aware that that only gets you so far. So for us, it's all about coming together as a group, really getting to know each other. I know the boys that are from Perth have done an amazing job at making us all feel welcome from interstate. So it really, it feels like our club already, and we're a part of it.
Well, there's little doubt about the value that these interstate recruits can bring to the Perth Football Club. The value of the side won't truly be known until they can string some wins together early in the season. And with South Fremantle, Peel Thunder and East Perth in the next 3 weeks, there's no doubt the value of this side will be put to the test.
At Mineral Resources Park, Paul Persick on location for Around the Waffle.
Well, there you have it. What about the perspective on those two? And they got good heads on their shoulders for two young men that, have got a great future ahead of them. Bit unlucky not to get an opportunity, real AFL opportunity at Collingwood and Sydney. But, they're loving it over there at Lathlane.
Yeah, coming from great pedigree as well with Indy Kirk, obviously son of a legend, and Charlie Dean making a name for himself off the back of, being at the biggest club in the land. So his experience will be invaluable.
Huge thanks to the Perth Football Club, Brad Dodd, Mark Stone and Adrian Barrich for helping us set that up this week as we went on location during the week. That does it for today's edition of Around the Waffle. Rothy, you've got a big weekend ahead of you. Get that voice ready.
Yeah, we'll do, Paul. All the best for your call as well.
It's going to be a big weekend of football. We'll see you next time, Rothy. And listeners and viewers, we'll see you next time on Around the Waffle. Make sure you check out our socials on Facebook and Instagram to see the teams that'll be playing this weekend in the Waffle and the WAFLW as well. And of course, we'll be back on Monday night for our usual recap show as we look back on another sensational weekend in prospect in Waffle football. Thanks for your company. We'll see you Monday.